Have you ever noticed that there's something deeply wrong about the way we do art in our society today? The arts are everywhere. Music and architecture and cooking and gardening and even our work, like in manufacturing and industry and even office jobs. Those might not look like art necessarily, but they come to us from artistic traditions. Everything that we do, writing and entertainment and advertising, commerce, all these things come to us from historical examples of arts. We live, breathe the arts, and yet look at the form that they have today. The arts have been so cheapened. We have all these mass-produced items, visual art that's like in hotel lobbies, that is designed for its blandness, designed to be pleasantly bland, right? And we have music, which again is composed and recorded to be pleasantly vacuous. All the stuff that is so superficial, all the pop music that's so popular is often, not always, but often the most superficial. It's been composed via formulas and recorded using auto-tune, and it's utterly vacuous. Our architecture in our modern environments is so ugly. Big box stores, Walmart, parking lots, highways, billboards. You can contrast this to what has come before, like in the old sections of cities, like old opera houses and concert halls and even old factories. They're really beautiful. They're nice to look at. They're well made. So what's going on here? So let's think about what the true purpose of art is as seen from a historical lens, because it wasn't always this way. So, for example, many indigenous peoples today, and we can extrapolate that this is the way it was in our past, they don't even have a word for art or artists, because they viewed their entire way of life, their entire relationship with nature, as one of an artistic harmony. So they didn't even have a word for arts because everybody did it. It was so deeply integrated into their way of life. Contrast that now to how many people talk about saying, "Oh, I'm not creative. I can't draw, or I can't play music, whatever." And you can see how has this happened? That we've gone from roots where everybody was so deeply artistic in how they lived and how they did everything, making their clothes and hunting and gathering and cooking and dance and music, like indigenous peoples, their whole way of life is mediated through art. And look today, people say that they aren't creative. So many people firmly believe that they aren't creative. Another example is of the ancient Greeks, whose education system involved, I think, poetry, music, and dance. That's what they educated their kids. That's what the aristocracy educated their kids with: music, poetry, and dance. Right? It's all the arts. And yet look at our education system today. The arts are the first thing to be cut. The first thing to be cut when budgets become tight. And look at the results of that. Our kids are so depressed and so anxious I'm not saying that's like a causal relationship, but there's something going on there. I remember arts school being like the arts classes and music classes being the best part of school. What do you think that does to a kid when that the best part of school gets cut? Another example is ancient Egypt, where the entire point of their civilization was artistic. Their art had a very specific function, and I believe that this is really the true function of all art, which is to lead the audience, lead the person experiencing it into an altered state of consciousness that puts you in contact with the universe, the larger forces of nature, God, cosmic consciousness, something bigger than yourself. And they did it so well. And you can see their art was, architecture, at least the art that we know of from them is in their architecture. And if you go there and you experience the temples, you can still feel that altered state. You get a sense of being in relationship with something bigger than yourself, something numinous, mystical, right? And look at our art today. All the crappy pop music and, oh gosh, Instagram pictures and mass-produced food and our concrete steel fabrications that we live in and do our work in. It's all so cheap and ugly. Yeah. So, so that's sort of like a big societal picture. And there's just something in all of us, I think, that knows that this is deeply, deeply wrong. That this is not what art is meant to be like, art, music, dance, theater, all of that, but it's also not what life is supposed to be like. Because art and life are inextricably interlinked. Yeah. Just like, well, just think of anything that you do during the day. All of it has some contact with the arts in some way or another. And the art that we have today is so superficial. It's all mass produced. Like, think of the music that you listen to, the recordings that get broadcast and streamed online, and the CDs, and all the videos, movies, books, and visual art. Almost for most of us, it all comes through our devices now. It all comes through mass-produced means. This has an effect on a person, right? There's a form of education that might be Montessori or something related to that, where the classrooms are all filled with beautiful objects for the children to be around and to interact with. The whole idea is about beauty, and because that's incredibly enriching. That just does something sort of intangible, or at least not easily measurable, but has a profound effect on a kid's life. I think that so much of the madness that we see in the world is because of the ugliness of all the art and architecture and entertainment that we encounter. You know, it's like ugly in, ugly out. Simple. And so I believe that artists, musicians, actors, writers, all artists have a responsibility to start changing this, god damn it. And it's not like, we don't do our best. Most of us do. And yet, despite our best efforts, the system is the way it is. And I think that a lot of us, even though we might have a felt sense that something is wrong, don't really, it's not like fully conscious. And so we don't really have a means of making any change. And even if we are aware of it, you might not know what to do. And so change then requires becoming aware of the problem. And that's kind of why I'm talking about this and other examples of this in other videos. Just to point out the problem. Here's this thing. Here's this wrongness in art and the way that art affects society. And it is deeply wrong. For kids to be told that if they can't draw now or they can't play music now when they're little kids, that they won't be able to when they're older, that's just deeply wrong. It's not true, and it stunts what might be some latent potential for arts students, arts and music students, to be constantly looking over their own shoulder, asking, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? That is deeply wrong. And it's not that there aren't standards to uphold in learning a craft, learning an art, but to have that constant second guessing actually comes from a very particular point of view that is disconnected from what arts are truly about. Yeah. I'm just gathering my thoughts here for a moment. Yeah, and so what are the arts about then? For me, the arts are about aliveness. That to experience, to encounter an artistic piece of some kind, or either to create that, the point is to come more alive. And if that looks like something mystical, like I was talking about earlier with the ancient Egyptians, or something more mundane, just feeling more joyful, more whole, more connected to yourself or what's going on around you, more resilient, all of that counts. And I think it's really important to know sort of the directionality of this problem. So, like I've been saying, the real problem is that the arts have become so cheapened, and that in our society we don't really value beauty. We value economic gain over everything else. The bottom line is king. And so beauty is seen as indulgent and frivolous. And so all the art that we have is all like mass produced because that's what's efficient to produce, right? So it creates this ugly, deadening effect on society, both the cause and further result of this disconnection that we see all around us. It's part of the madness that we see in the world today, right? And so what's ours to do as artists is to counteract that. I believe we have a responsibility to counteract this deadness, and disconnection, to bring more aliveness and awareness into the world. And the way that we do that is through first seeing the problem clearly. And I hope that in listening to this, watching this video, you've seen some examples, and maybe you can think of other examples in your own life. I mean, there are tons and tons of them. And just by seeing that and holding it in awareness, that by itself creates a change in your mind and your heart. It's like, oh, there's that thing again. And even if you don't know what to do right away, that's not a problem. Just letting in the information. Oh, here's that wrongness again. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. You just let it in. You let it in. And as you let it in, a knowing of how to respond will arise. And it will be instinctual. You'll just know. In the same way that you know that when you really like a piece of music, or in the same way that you know that that one poem that saved your life, that feeling of being uplifted, like it's that same visceral sense of knowing. And so when you get enough examples, or you are aware of this problem enough times, and you let that information in, you let in that awareness of the problem enough times, it sort of digests in your system, and out comes some action that you can take, and you'll know what it is. Maybe it's changing the way you practice, or the kinds of gigs that you take, or just having conversations with friends, or writing articles about this, or taking some other sort of seemingly unrelated action, like climate-related action, or something related to social inequality of some kind. And so it's almost like compost, becoming aware of this problem, and then generating action. Well, the action will arise spontaneously. So that's one sort of basic principle about this, and you'll know you're on the right track when you're coming more alive. When your body feels more free, when you feel more grounded, when you feel more spacious, centered, calm, when you feel more connected to a sense of love, even if there's some injustice that you're seeing in the world that you're reacting against, if it's coming from a place of love, like you're remembering what you actually love, in your response to that, then that love will come through, and that's really what the world needs more of, not more reactivity. So, and that's really the basic story of Soul Force Arts as well. The whole approach is based on the idea that what's most important in the arts is aliveness, and that your art is simply the channel through which you convey your aliveness to the people around you. And the same goes with the art that you consume. Like the point of listening to a song, or reading something, or watching a film, or going to see a show, the point is to come more alive. That's why you do it. And like the point of practicing your art, getting better. The point of practicing is to help convey your aliveness better. So is the point of teaching. The point of teaching is to help your students convey their aliveness, get in touch with their aliveness. And the best way to do that is for you to be in touch with your aliveness as you teach. So this is the focus of the Soul Force Arts approach. It's meant to counter the deadness and disconnection the superficiality and frivolity of so much of the art that we see in our culture, and thereby benefit yourself as an individual, your art, your well-being, your emotional expressivity, your expressive ability, your connection with your audiences, and thereby, when you bring this aliveness to your craft, to your art, it's going to come through. It's going to come through in your performances, in your works, whatever it is that you do. And that's what the world needs right now. The world needs your aliveness. The world needs your soul force. Okay, so I think that's all for today. If you enjoy this kind of material, please do click like or subscribe on this video. And you can check out my website, josepharnold.com. I'm soon going to have a new website up there at josepharnold.com and another one at soulforcearts.com. You can sign up for my email list there, and I also have blog posts on my website, excerpts from my upcoming book, Soul Force Arts, The Vital Role of Musicians and Artists in a World That's Lost Its Mind. So please do stay tuned for all of that, and let me know if you have any comments or questions. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you want to take some lessons with me in how to become a Soul Force artist, how to relieve tension and pain, how to play with more joy and expressivity, more depth, how to approach your life as an artist in a way that is of benefit to the world, then yeah, you can reach out to me via josepharnold.com. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.